Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska and this is the news. The African peacekeeping mission, composed of the leaders of South Africa, Senegal, Zambia, Comoros, and Egypt, appeared in St. Petersburg today. Admittedly, they had to use an air raid shelter in Kiev yesterday during an air raid and saw mass graves in Bucha. Meanwhile, over the past 24 hours, Kherson and residential neighborhoods in other cities have been shelled from mortars, artillery, Grad launchers, and drones. And as a result of these Russian shellings, 2 people have been killed and 25 wounded, including children. Yesterday, leaders of African countries went on a peace mission to Kiev. In response to the plan presented, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky gave a clear reminder of what must be achieved for peace to prevail. I want to reiterate, we need real peace and therefore a real withdrawal of Russian troops from all of our independent land. Ukraine has shown the world its global strength in security matters, especially food security. The world directly depends on our ability to produce and export food. Today I presented the results of 2 of our initiatives to our meeting participants, the Black Sea Grains Initiative. We have helped many nations in Africa, Asia, Europe to maintain social and market stability. African countries are also affected by the war. Ukrainian grain was exported to them, the transportation of which is much more difficult today.
What has also brought us here is that Africa is also feeling the negative impact of this war. Our grain prices have gone up and there's a shortage. Fertilizer prices have also shot up. So even as we are thousands of kilometers away as African countries, we are feeling the impact of this war. And we say that when it comes to things like grain and fertilizers, there should be an opening up of the logistics so that grain and fertilizers must get to the market.
Today, African politicians arrived in St. Petersburg for peace talks with Vladimir Putin. Yesterday, they were able to see firsthand what Ruski Mir means as the Russians shelled the Kiev region, among other places, during their stay in Ukraine.
Our visit to Bucha this morning underscores the challenges and the difficulties that we face. Dislocation, migration, are not just of the people of Ukraine, but as you know, Ukraine, like most of us, are hosts to citizens of the globe, of the world. So there are many, many citizens that have been affected.
Russian words about peace are just empty platitudes. Today, their rockets fell in the Kharkiv region, among others. A Russian anti-tank missile hit a civilian car traveling in the direction of Khuriv, Kozahok. According to preliminary data, there were 4 people in the car who died on the spot. Details are being determined. This is another terror by the Russians against civilians. Meanwhile, according to the Washington Post, U.S. President Joe Biden has backed NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg's proposal to make it easier for Ukraine to join the alliance. The United States has also addressed reports that Russian nuclear weapons have been deployed in Belarus. The U.S. once again assured that it will defend every inch of NATO members' land.
And as for Belarus itself, this is just another example of Lukashenko making irresponsible, provocative choices to cede control of Belarus's sovereignty against the will of the Belarusian people.
As a result of the Russian blowing up of the Novakhovka Dam, 28 villages in the Kherson region are still underwater. In the flooded villages, water remains over a meter high. Nearly 3,000 people have been evacuated from the flooded areas. However, help did not come in time for everyone. Tens of thousands of Poles marched through the streets of Warsaw today to demand equality for LGBTQ people ahead of upcoming elections in the fall. Poland's ruling Law and Justice Party has focused on opposing what it calls LGBT ideology in previous campaigns. And with the election looking tight, activists expected to use issues like gay marriage or teaching about LGBTQ issues in schools to mobilize socially conservative voters. The LGBTQ Pride Parade organizer, Alicja Herda, says that the fears some conservatives have regarding LGBTQ rights are unfounded.
I am pretty sure that it will be, because it's easy.
The Law and Justice political party says that extending marriage and adoption to gay couples threatens traditional family structures and is harmful for children.
Almost 100% sure that it will be happening again this year, but
it also says that teaching about LGBTQ issues in schools results in children being sexualized. This view, which is regularly featured in state-run media, strikes a chord with many voters in the predominantly Catholic country. This threat is an attack on the family, and this attack is being carried out in the worst possible way, because in reality, it is an attack on children. Critics say that the government is seeking to gain votes by stoking prejudice against a minority that already faces widespread discrimination. Earlier today, Great Britain's King Charles celebrated his first official birthday parade as sovereign, riding on horseback to inspect soldiers in a ceremony that has been an annual event since 1760. The British capital hosted the first official birthday parade of King Charles III. Although the king was born on November 14th, according to tradition, the monarch celebrates with his subjects in June. The tradition of trooping the color has existed since the 17th century and the reign of King George II, who celebrated his birthday in October. Since the weather in the fall was usually not good, the monarch decided to move the celebration to a warmer time of the year. The British monarch therefore celebrates his birthday twice, the first time officially and the second time privately. King Charles III, 74, revived the tradition and became the first monarch in more than 30 years to take part in the Trooping the Color parade by riding a horse. His mother, Queen Elizabeth, last presided over the parade on horseback in 1986, when she was 60 years old. In the British Army's annual tribute to the monarch, the king was greeted with a royal salute. He then inspected the soldiers in front of 8,000 spectators. The event was attended by his son, William, Prince of Wales, his sister, Princess Anne, and brother Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, who, like the king, rode on horseback. Queen Camilla and the Princess of Wales, Kate, along with their children, rode in a carriage. The Queen and Duchess wore contrasting outfits. The red color of Camilla's dress referred to the colors of her regiment, the Grenadier Guards, while the colors of Kate's clothing referred to the colors of her Irish Guards. And finally, ahead of upcoming U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to China, Americans have expressed their hope that more efforts will be made to get bilateral relations back on track. As agreed between China and the United States, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will visit China from June 18th to June 19th, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday. Slayton Hargreaves, a resident of Los Angeles, California, said normalizing the bilateral relationship and enhancing regular exchanges between the two peoples are music to his ears.
I think keeping discourse open is very important, and our relationship with China, obviously being two of the world's biggest powers, is very important. I think there can always be more connection between just the regular people of China and the U.S. I'm not exactly sure how that would look to increase that communication, but yeah, I think there could always be more. They got a beautiful country and beautiful culture, and it's very old and well established, and they're really rooted in their traditions. So if we could bring more of that here, that'd be pretty great, and bring more of the U.S. over there as well. That'd be pretty awesome.
I think that any course towards normalization, towards kind of de-intensifying, is a good thing. I think that a relaxation of tariffs or elimination of them is typically like a good thing. I'm kind of a free market guy, so anything that will kind of, again, turn the temperature down and relax and normalize, I think is good.
During Blinken's visit, the two sides will exchange views on bilateral relations and important international and regional issues of mutual interest, and China will make clear its position on bilateral relations, as well as its concerns, and resolutely safeguard its interests, according to the ministry's spokesman, Wang Wenbin, on Friday, in response to China's expectations for the U.S. top diplomat's visit to the country. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden said earlier today that he hopes to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping in the next several months.
China, Mr. President, can Secretary Blinken ease tensions with China on this trip, do you think?
Sure. Well, look, China has some legitimate difficulties unrelated to the United States. And I think one of the things that balloon caused was not so much that it got shot down, but I don't think the leadership knew where it was and knew what was in it and knew what was going on. I think it was more embarrassing than it was intentional. And so I'm hoping that over the next several months, I'll be meeting with Xi again and talking about legitimate differences we have, but also how there's areas we can get along.
President Biden made the comments to reporters before boarding Air Force One, bound for Philadelphia, where he will hold his first political rally since announcing his re-election campaign. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and some of our other programs. But for me, it's have a wonderful evening.